Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You, my lucky soul, have wandered down to the Prog Corner where today, Kevin, can you believe it? Can you believe it?
I can't.
I'm unworthy.
I'm unworthy.
I mean, we've had Annie Haslam on the show. We've had Steve Hackett on the show. We've had some pretty big names on the show. But you know what? I can't remember being this like fanboyed out. And it's really embarrassing. So let me just cut to the chase. Ladies and gentlemen, my childhood hero, it's Derek Shulman joining the Prog Corner. I'm going to have a heart attack, I think. I really am. Derek, thank you so much for joining the show.
My pleasure to meet you, Scott and Kevin.
This is a great honor. And in case you've been living under a rock, most prog fans are pretty hip to who's who and what's what. Ladies and gentlemen, Derek Shulman. We could go all the way back to Simon Dupree. We could talk about the Moles. We could talk about, some guy named Reginald Dwight. We could talk about all that kind of stuff. But I want to focus on the thing that I really identify with. And that's all that greatness that came from Gentle Giant. And boys and girls, there's a brand new Gentle Giant release. They are taking the Playing the Fool 1977 live album, and they are blowing it up, right? As it should be. Is this like the whole concert, Derek?
Yes, indeed it is. It's a friend and archivist, Dan Bornemark, who's in Sweden. When we decided to remix this album, he suggested to us, instead of just remixing it, how about doing the whole concert? Because in the original version, it was just a selection of songs, because at that point, we only had enough time for two vinyl LPs. This day and age, you could put everything in a little thumb drive. So So we decided to. I just said, why don't you just do the whole damn concert? And we said, okay. And he's been an archivist, and he found all of the tapes from the four shows, and effectively. Excuse me, there's a frog right in my throat here.
I know how that goes. Here we go. Hold on. It's time for a commercial sponsor. Wait a second. I don't know. I'm not sponsored by anybody.
No. Anyway, so he said, why don't present the album as the complete live experience, which is in fact the whole show with the songs we left out, and also the bits and pieces where I introduced the band. The band is you could hear us on stage with the count-ins and even the screams of John, saying, "Hey, let's go." And then, so it's literally being at the concert experience, being there, especially in 5.1 and Atmos. And I just heard it last week, and
I should have put that in the little crawl at the bottom. I should have said that, because a lot of my people are really big time audiophiles, talking about 5.0 mixes and Atmos, Dolby Stereo. You know what? I don't know nothing about that, man. I just know when it's good. And when I saw the track listing, I saw the songs that were left off, man. I'm excited to hear like Timing and Interview done live. Because if you think about it, at the time Seconds Out came out, right? And Genesis, they didn't want to have like a bunch of songs off the latest album on the live album. The label doesn't like that. So it made sense to leave those tracks off. But man, I can't wait to hear those. What else is on there that wasn't on the original? What's the third track?
Actually, it's a track, but it's a solo. It's my brother Ray's solo, and he had about 7. He took the stage for 7 minutes, and at that time, I think we were the first to do this. Even then, our roadies put together a quadraphonic sound system from a Revox, and he was able to play his violin and put speakers all the way around the auditorium. So his solo is on the complete live version, and you'll hear him play around, and the audience is like befuddled when they hear it coming over there from behind them, and you'll hear that, and it's pretty spectacular what he's done and what he did, and he's not around anymore, but to hear him. Hear him entertain the audience, and that's on the album as well. Also including me introducing the band, and John, and then Gary and Kerry and Ray,
Uh,
making noises and making mistakes and
And no
Yeah.
talking to
overdubs,
each
right?
other.
No overdubs at all in this thing.
Never, no. It
nice.
came right
True
from
live album.
a true live album. Yeah, from 4 shows. We selected the best four. People selected the best songs or tracks from the 4 shows we recorded from Dusseldorf, Munich. I believe it was where Paris and Brussels. That's correct. Yeah. So, and I think that Dan, in fact, decided that one or two of the tracks, which were on the original album, uh, we had better tracks of the songs in a different venue.
Yeah.
So that's different too. But you won't hear about the
Cool.
difference.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, when you pick it up, it is now it like growing up, it was a double album, right?
Right.
Now it's going to be a triple album because of the extended length. Where do I want to direct traffic? Because I know people, a lot of times these releases come out and people are real like, come on, man, this smells like a cash grab. I love these guys, but come on, man, how many copies of X, Y, or Z do I really need? You need this. I mean, because this is like the whole kit and the caboodle. I did a couple years ago, Kevin. Did you watch my episode, the 25 greatest prog rock live albums of all time?
Number one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had Playing the Fool at number 1. So this is something you absolutely got to have. It's like kind of like a dream come true for, people like me that grew up in love with Gentle Giant. And so you got it as a double CD. What is the Atmos? Talk to me about like stuff I don't understand for my audience.
Well, the 5.1, the graphics are superb. Just FYI, when you put it in your Blu-ray speaker, you'll see the graphics. But the 5.1, if you have the system, you'll hear the various instruments in different locations, and you're surrounded by the band. Atmos is even higher end, so it's beautifully done. It really is, and
Yeah.
and then it does show. To be honest with you, it does show how tight the band was on stage. I'll be honest, because I only revisited it myself
Yeah.
most recently, and having listened to it again, I thought, damn, we were pretty good.
It's kind of shocking how good you guys are, right? I mean, it's like, come on. There's no way human beings did what these guys did. And R.I.P. To Ray, man,
Yeah.
he just, people always talk about his bass playing, but they rarely talk about how great he was on that violin. And
Yeah, violin
So-
and composition across the board. Ray was a genius.
Kevin, put that
my
graphic back up. I want to direct traffic to www.gentlegiantuk.link, and that is
PTF.
is that where we want people to go?
Well,
that takes you to
there's
a
an American
link
one.
with all the different places they can get it.
Yeah, but there's an American link, I believe.
Yeah, which is
that
what?
you should
That's
see.
gentlegiantband.com.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where all right. So all my people in the U.S. go to gentlegiantband.com. The pre-orders are now, the release date's May 2nd, right? That's coming up, man. That's like in a week or two. That's insane. Yeah. So, you have a career in a weird band like Gentle Giant. Honestly, one of my favorite bands of all time, Kevin.
For sure.
To me,
They're in my top 8.
Yeah.
And yet they're the
Yeah.
band that commercially most people, but for prog fans, they're in our top 8, if not higher.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
you're up
Absolutely.
there with the Genesis and the Yeses and the ones that made a lot of commercial success. Grand, but for prog fans, I'm telling you, Gentle Giant has a special place in our hearts.
And
I
I don't
appreciate
think you got a lot of accolades and awards. There weren't any Grammys to be won in Gentle Giant. So it had to feel pretty good when Prog Magazine named you guys, what was that, like a Lifetime Achievement Award or something?
Yep.
By Jerry Ewing and the good folks over there, which is pretty cool. To wit, earlier this week, Derek, I, by myself, created and inducted my inaugural class of the Prog Rock Hall of Fame. Yes, I did. 16 acts got in. And Derek, let me be the first to congratulate you. You are now officially a member of the Prog Rock Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Hallelujah.
But you know,
Well, and I think people today appreciate it even more still, and not just prog fans, but in other genres, hip hop sampling it.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
well, some bands
They
are cool,
appreciate
right?
the technology or the technical skill that these guys had.
Yeah, but
No,
you
you're
know,
right. Yeah.
Gentle Giant are kind of cool now. You know, you go like record shows and you go to record stores and you see what the kids are buying. And, you know, it's still maybe not that cool to pick up Tarkus and brain salad surgery or Fragile, but, you know, they've always loved King Crimson. Always been cool
that
to love.
image right there.
Yeah.
You see that everywhere.
But Gentle Giant is kind of cool again. And it might be the sampling, or it might be that you guys were never like super huge. You never, you know, peaked, you know, in that territory where, you know, some of your contemporaries did, which maybe gives you like a cool edge in 2025. Do you feel any of that? Well, I don't know. You might have a finger on the pulse of the music industry still, right?
Well, yeah, I do actually. But I think what is interesting is the young generation who are picking up on the music of our band. I mean, and the fact that we're even talking about it. We haven't played on stage since 1980. So it's 45 years later. We're still talking about who knew that the music would last, and that shows, I think, the legacy, if you like, of what we had is very meaningful, and especially to the younger crowd. In 2020, my son and Ray put together the fan version of Proclamation. I don't know whether you saw that.
Yeah,
and that became the event of the year in Prog magazine, and the fact that it was mostly young players. That shocked me. It wasn't like old farts like me who remembered from stage. It was young guys and young girls who were playing along with the song. And
that was amazing. How many views does that have now on YouTube? I mean, I think it's got
millions. Yeah, a couple of million at least.
I think so. I think it's over 2 or 3 million, and that's just insane. In 2020, that Proclamation could have that kind of impact. It's just nuts.
It was very difficult to do. I mean, the editing.
Yeah,
my son did
I bet.
Ray editing the sound was spectacular. Anyway, that was a fun thing during a dark period in our lives here.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, it's not often that people get a second bite at the apple or have a relevant act two, right? I mean, I know as a failed musician, the last thing I wanted to do would ever be, part of the Enemy, put a suit on and be a dreaded A&R guy and become part of the dreaded Machine. But somehow, not only did you kind of sort of find yourself in that world, dude dominated that world. Talk to me about the transition from being, oh, look at this. He's got a graphic for everything, man.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
Should I be embarrassed or?
I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know. How did you do it? How was that transition for you? I mean, to me,
you
it's
got
like
Dream
Polar.
Theater on your list, so you're forgiven anything else you did.
No,
there we go.
leave Bon Jovi alone, man. This guy, he was born to be a rock star, and Derek saw it. Leave him alone.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Listen, it was, having taken over the management, if you like, of the band. Myself with Ray, halfway through our career, if you like, we learned the business from inside. I guess whether it's good news or bad news, who knows? But so
I didn't know that. That makes sense. That would have helped with the transition a little bit. You didn't have a manager per se towards the end. You guys, and Ray were handling it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Towards the end, we were.
Okay.
In some respects, it was good because we had control. On the other hand, you don't get objective points of view. You're completely subjective. So maybe that's kind of, it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
So when we decided to call it a day. I got a call from a friend who was at Chrysalis Records, which we were assigned to in UK, and he said, "Have you thought about joining a record company?" I said, "Absolutely not. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Come on, man.
me being over to Russia and
Yeah.
but nevertheless, you have to put bread on the table when you got a family.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I went to New York. I was in LA at the time.
Wait a second.
And,
Hold on. You mean you didn't, Gentle Giant didn't call it quits in 1980, and you hadn't amassed millions and millions and mansions in various parts of the world? I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
No, we were able to make a pretty good living, honestly,
Yeah,
truthfully.
good.
But thankfully, it wasn't going to be the big stack of cash, which will like the rest of our lives. But
Yeah, you weren't Keith Richards and Mick Jagger.
no. So I decided to have the interview at Polygram. That was a time, and they said, "Would you like to?" And I thought about it, and I called my wife. And said, "What do you think?" And she said, "Well, go for it. If I don't like it, then don't do it." And I moved to New York, and on the first day, I hated it. It was the worst thing I could ever do. However, I got through that first day, and I thought, let me give it a try, and I did, and I was there for a year doing various things, and then I went to the A&R department, and then the first artist I signed was Bon Jovi, and then I realized I had a pretty good knack for, number one, sniffing out some of the biggest bands that came along during that period, and also had a pretty good knack for the bullshit which went on behind you with the record companies.
Yeah.
And I realized, had I known them what I was dealing with at a band, maybe we would have been a lot bigger. But nevertheless,
or maybe you would have never started a band in the first place.
Maybe that's true. But it served me well. And thankfully I'm very thankful that it did. But in truth, having had the career I've had, and you'll read about it, by the way, in my book in September.
Oh,
I got a book, so you'll see you'll hear about all these stories, and good, bad, and different.
we want to hear them all. So yeah, I'm excited to hear there's a book coming out. Do you have a title?
Giant Steps.
Nice.
But having gone through all this, and I recently I've been in the studio, working with the newest technology, AI, trying to. There's an album which we haven't put out yet, remixed, and I don't know whether I should mention this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
There we go. Hey, it's attention.
Top Corner exclusive.
Mark this timestamp right here, boys and girls. This is going to be turned into a short. No. We can do whatever you want, Derek.
So no. Look, I'm in the studio within a glass house, and it's spectacular what could be done now with the highest end, AI separating tracks, and I'm working on that, and. There might be a whole new remix of 5.1 Atmos of that in the middle to near future. So I've been doing, but what that did for me effectively is realize that I was in a band, and the band was just an incredible experience. But so was my time in the business. But ultimately, I'm sitting in the studio listening to in a glass house, and it really hit me that the most important period of time for me, and the most important period of time for anyone who has music in their soul, is creating and being a musician. So all the other stuff you see on that thing, the Kingdom, the Cinderellas and Panteras, they were great, but the greatest thing for me was standing in the audience, singing along and recording with the guys in the band. So that's really who I am effectively.
And you were in the position where it was a family deal, right? So that made it kind of extra special to be on stage. It's a band of brothers, literally, right?
Well, and it was also a special time that we'll never have again. That period of time was just so, and for you to have been a part of it, how do you give up those memories,
Yeah, it was a very special time. You're exactly right. The late '60s, early '70s, when popular music was formed, the music the biggest bands that we know about were formed in those days, and I don't think there'll be that anymore. I mean,
No.
I think that's gone. I mean, it's almost impossible to to recover and relive those days. I'm very lucky to have seen those days and been part of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's so it really kind of brought back the memories of sitting with Ray or Kerry or even Phil when he was in the band and recording and creating music and lyrics and recording it and saying, is this good? Is this any good? Let's try this and let's try that. That's the real thing. That's the world that I want to be remembered as a musician and a composer and a singer and someone who contributed something which has legacy, which has vitality, if you like.
No, exactly. The '70s will never happen again, and for a lot of reasons, that's probably a good thing. If we don't want to look back at the past with rose-colored glasses because there's plenty about that era, that we don't really want to have to relive. But however, you look at it's that post-Beatles explosion, right? A star explodes, and it's going to create and radiate all that energy out in 360 degrees, and everybody gets caught in that wake, and none of the men in the suits at the record labels they knew nothing about what was going on. So they just signed whatever, and that was just such a beautiful time of sheer bliss and ignorance. Bill Bruford referred to it as a time when there was a lot of slack in the rope. And you could do anything because it probably hadn't been done before. And now that's a little harder to say nowadays. But so the '70s can't happen again.
Yeah, and I think from a fan's perspective, it's tough to recreate that. You had such a smaller pool to choose from. So you got on your bike and you rode to that record store and you spent those few bucks and you came home with that album and you devoured it and you flipped it over and you opened the liner notes, and you're never going to probably get that ever again either.
That's right.
That's you're exactly right, and that's what I did. I remember. You mentioned the Beatles; they changed everything, of course. And I remember when I was at school. When the first album came out, me and my friends. I wasn't able to afford it, but one of the richer kids at school was able to afford the album, and we all went over to his house and listened. I mean, in the room,
you're right. It was communal. You'd bring your friends in, right? Absolutely. A lot of times your first listen to a brand new album was not alone with the headphones on. It was with all your friends. You'd get together and, God, Queen's got a new album out. We just got to hear this thing.
There'd be that moment in the song when it would hit and you would look at each other and you just knew you both got it.
Yep.
And they still do that. But it's a track on Spotify by some, obscure rapper I've never heard of. That's the difference. It's still happening right now. Man. How much more time do we have? I think we got a few more minutes. That's good. So
sure.
Yeah, I know you're a busy guy, but of all the I just got to know of all the tours that you guys did, of all the shows, all the songs that may or may not have been on the set list, what over all these years do you consider to be the best Gentle Giant track? Your favorite Gentle Giant track? If you're gonna, you're gonna point your great grandkid to what Grandpa did. Which track is it, man?
Okay, I'll tell you what it's going to be. It's the album from Octopus, Knots.
Oh yeah.
I think that it's such a clever song. The arrangement and the vocal parts are incredibly written as Carrie.
Well, and I think those harmonies have influenced so many other bands. You hear that, Neil Morris, you hear it all the time, and that's right where they got it from.
But the fact that we were able to combine I mean, it was written, of course, it was scored, but we were able to sing it even live, and the fact that after the incredibly interesting written piece that Kerry wrote, then we went into the heavy riff, and then there's so many things condensed in that track.
Yeah,
that is Gentle Giant. I think that's the essence of Gentle Giant.
I love it. That's a perfect call. Now, Kerry, he scored a lot of that stuff, didn't he?
Oh yeah. He's a lot of the vocal parts. Yeah, some of the things. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly were difficult to sing. Let me tell you.
I bet.
Well, and you hear it all the time now, and you always just think, okay, Gentle Giant.
Yeah.
When you hear it.
Yeah. No, we scored. I mean, a lot of things were scored. I mean, and we were very well rehearsed. I mean, that's the other thing. We didn't, jam any time when we went on tour. I mean, we were.
Why does that not surprise me? Hey, Gentle Giant's jamming out. That's not exactly what you guys were doing.
No,
That's
great. We weren't the Dead or Dave Matthews or anything like that.
I do a lot of reviews. I glorify. We're here to glorify, preserve, and absolutely celebrate the greatest music ever written. And it was prog rock in the 70s, 100%. Particularly prog rock in the UK and a side of Italy in particular, for sure. But we look at a lot of the newer prog acts, and it's got to feel good to you that. A lot of newer prog acts have just a whole ton of Gentle Giant baked into their DNA. I mean, everything from, Advent to Haken. I mean, there's so many bands that I'm like, The Ritual. It's like, that's a Gentle Giant phraseology right there.
Most people's favorite Haken song. That's just a Gentle Giant song.
That's got to feel pretty good. That the influence of Gentle Giant is actually you guys are punching way outside your weight class right now.
Well, thank you. I know it sure is. I mean, the one interesting thing you mentioned before, the younger new progressive bands, but I think the even more interesting is the hip hop world has taken the band under its wing, and we've become. I'm gonna say something, but that who Questlove is, of course.
Yeah,
he's a huge fan, and he pulled me aside at the Tonight Show a couple of years ago and said, "You guys have got a ghetto pass."
That's awesome. Well, Travis Scott, I guess, has used you guys. I mean, and just a slew of lesser knowns. I look at listen. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right?
Oh yes, it's crazy, but I think it's great. But I think some of the hip hop band, underneath the surface, they're probably more progressive than most of the other pop stuff and people doing stuff on their iMacs or God knows what. Yeah. And anyway, but that's something that I believe that some of they twist and turn little pieces and that's something we would do as well. So that's interesting as well as the bands the newer aggressive bands that you're talking about.
Are you listening to any of those newer bands? I mean,
I occasionally do. Not often. But you mentioned Hawken, and they're very similar to some of the things.
Yeah.
Like Neil. Yeah, I mean Neil Morse, of course. I know he's a great guy and a good friend, and he himself, has told me that.
Oh yeah, he straight up says, this is a knockoff of what they were doing.
Yeah, but no, I'm not really in tune with the newer prog thing, but I know it's there, and I'm happy to hear that there's an influence there, which is
you're one of the godfathers of the scene. And
and to give you an idea, every week on Prog Radio we do a show called What's New Proggy Cats. It's supposed to be 2 hours long of nothing but new prog from that week. It always runs 2.5, 3 hours long. Yeah. So in 1 week, and we just play one song from each new album. It's amazing how much new prog is out there.
Hundreds of albums every year. I can't keep track. I think you probably listen to more than I do, Kevin, but I think I listen to
everything.
Like 300 new prog albums just that came out in 2024 that just I listened to, and then I go on Prog Archives and I'm like, I didn't hear that one. No, I didn't hear that
20,
one.
We'll play 20 a week, so whatever 20 times
crazy.
52 is, that's a lot of new albums.
A lot of records. That's like 1,000 right there. So Prog is alive and well. It, we're more than just like trying to keep a dead body alive. This is it's an organic living thing, and the young people are the absolute key, and that's why I always talk about new prog. But when you talk about Gentle Giant, yes, or Genesis, I get way better views, because it is, at the end of the day, it is nostalgia core, and we are men of a certain age, and that's just the way it goes, man. But
and every one of these new bands, you mentioned Gentle Giant, nothing but respect. They're all in awe of it.
Yeah, nobody. I've heard. I don't get them. But I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I can't stand them." Right? I mean, that's my wife.
I've said I don't get them sometimes either.
I love Gentle Giant, and what have you been doing lately? I know you always have something cooking besides playing the Fool. What have you been doing with your days?
Well, I've just mentioned something which no one else has heard.
That's exciting news, boys and girls. In case you're skipping around on the progress bar and you missed it earlier, we might just be looking at an AI assisted brand new mix of this beautiful thing. The first import I ever bought, by the way. Yeah. I think the US labels ridiculous recalcitrance and hesitancy to release this masterpiece actually did us all a favor, because it opened up a whole lot of people to this thing called the import section. I didn't even know there was such a thing, right? First import I ever bought.
So we'll see where that goes, and there's a couple of music documentaries I'm working on, which I'm still learning. I'm involved. So I'm involved in a couple of those things, and sleeping.
I love it. I love sleeping.
When's the book come out again? September?
Oh yeah, the book is coming out in mid-September.
That'll be great to read.
And some of the stories from Simon Dupree to Gentle Giant and all the other and various things that we went through and beyond that, as you mentioned before.
You got stories to tell, man. That's just who can say I got Bon Jovi stories, I got Elton John stories, and not like just not even blink, not just the face doesn't even change, like it's no big deal. That's Derek Shulman, boys and girls. He's an absolute legend, one of my all-time heroes. Gentle Giant, one of my top 10 favorite bands for sure. And now that over the years my black heart has softened up the Giant for a day, right? I used to hate that record, man, but over time I really, really kind of like it now. So I can honestly say Gentle Giant never put out a bad album. They didn't. Every one of them was fantastic from start to finish, from the debut to Civilian. And I'll die on the hill that Civilian is amazing. I envisioned a future where Derek Shulman does not go into the record executive role, but Gentle Giant lives on, and they dominate the 80s with albums like Civilian. I can see it. I can hear it. Did you ever at any? Did you ever think during the 80s and the early 90s or whatever, man, what if the band would have stayed together? What would we have done?
Nah, we were never a what if band. We were a chapter band. That was a fantastic, incredible chapter. And when the page closed, it was a new chapter. And Ray and myself in particular, and even Carrie, it was a time you can't recapture. It's something that if you try to recapture it, then it becomes redundant, if you like, in some respects. So don't. One thing we didn't want to be is a parody of ourselves. So the fact that what we left in our musical repertoire is still relevant, I hope. It's incredible for us. I would never have thought that, again, 40 plus years later, we're talking about, the music that we made back then. As I said, I can really re-listen to it myself and be objective. And as I said, I would listen to the remix of the live album, and thought to myself, "Damn, we were damn good."
Yeah.
You know,
That band wasn't too bad, were they, Derek?
I band, yeah, we
Yeah.
were damn,
Not bad at all. Pretty decent.
yeah, decent, very decent band.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Anyway, boys and girls, our guest today has been man, I can't even believe I'm saying it, Kevin. This has just been awesome. Spending time with none other than Derek Shulman. Kevin, you got any final questions you wanna ask Derek?
No, he answered my biggest one. I was going to ask him if you could only have one of those lives, either the Gentle Giant, the band life, or the exec life, and he sounded like he said he'd choose.
Oh, he did.
The immortality of Gentle Giant and that music.
Absolutely, 100%. The music, and musicians are what lives, not the business.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. The business, will change, but the music stays. It does. And that is the big reason why Prog Radio gets all their listeners. It's a big reason why the Prog Corner is the #1 prog rock channel on all of YouTube, boys and girls. It's nostalgia core, man. We want to go back to our glory years and relive it just a little bit, to wit, the greatest live album of all time. I've said it before, I'll say it again. 1977's Playing the Fool. It's being remixed, remastered, reimagined, reissued, 2 CD, 3 LP. A dream is coming true. The whole show, the way it was meant to be heard, just like it was when the boys were on the road all around Europe and North America. Derek, thank you so much for being my guest today.
My pleasure, honestly.
Any final words before we do this thing?
You warned me. Are you kidding?
Yeah, okay. There you go. Well, boys and girls, peace in the Middle East. My guest today, Derek, thank you so much. I love you guys.
Okay.
Free Tibet, free Ukraine, free your mind, free beer, free Willie, and God save the king, boys and girls. Oh, save King Chucky. That boy could use your saving right now. Oh, I heard he got that remission from that there cancer. Well, bring him to America anyway. Make him swim. Woo! Make him swim! Oh, no! Make that boy swim! Oh, and then we're going to drink some poison. We're going to do spells and incantations. Oh, it's going to be amazing. But you know what's going to happen, Kevin?
I think I do.
We're going to dance with them snakes! Oh, no! Oh, look out! We're going to dance with them snakes. This is for Derek Shulman and Gentle Giant. I love you guys. Peace! Let me turn the button off if I can find it. All right, Billy Bob. I'll see you tomorrow.